is Jennifer Palamas from Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is Barbecue Central.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening, and welcome to the really big Barbecue Central show. This is the show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire fun and frivolity show. If you want to jump in this evening through phone calls and emails and text messages, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at BBQCentralShow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter, which you can subscribe to on that aforementioned homepage website, thebbqcentralshow.com. Just drop an email in there, and that's all you need. Don't even need a first name or a last name. And then every Tuesday around 3 p.m. Eastern, you'll get a heads up on what's going on the show later that evening. In about 12 minutes from now, it's been 2-3 years or so since we've had him on, the pitmaster of Loot and Booty and your current World Food Champion, Barbecue Champion, Sterling Smith. Loot and Booty Barbecue will join us, so we will talk to Sterling about this past weekend at the World Food Championships and how he saw that weekend come off as a whole, and then we'll dig into the dirt a little bit, talk about the barbecue section, and obviously what it's like to walk away with a 10-grand check and the title of World Food Champ of the barbecue division. Also competing along the competition lines at the same time was the Kansas City Barbecue Society's World Invitational, which I'm sure Sterling would have been able to compete in as well, probably on both sides. So we'll talk to him about why you choose one over the other, if there was motivating factors for him, get a little in-depth look at where he thinks competition barbecue in general is, and then we'll talk a little bit of Loot and Booty business, and if time allows, we'll talk about the RIPT grill, RIPT, which is the wood chip grill that you've been seeing on social media for the last handful of months. Sterling has had a number of hours of hands-on experience with this, so he can talk about the particulars of what it's all about and what you could look to expect if you are on the pre-order list, and then assuming that actually comes to fruition with ones that you can actually buy, what you could be looking for in a cooking experience. 35 past the hour. We'll be joined by the quarterly guest who the last two times, a little tough to get, but we're hopeful that it will happen tonight. The creator of the Hardcore Carnivore Brand, Jess Pryles, will be joining us. So we'll talk to Jess about a number of topics. We'll do a little Thanksgiving prep. We'll talk about alternatives to turkey if you're not a turkey person, side dishes, new product out now month and a half, that new burnt end barbecue sauce in the can. And we'll get a little business update from her. We'll talk about trends of 2022 that she thought were interesting. Doesn't necessarily have to be a fan of per se, but things that stuck out to her. And then we'll pontificate a little bit because she won't be back in December. And we'll talk about things she would see happening or potentially becoming a trend in 2023 as well. And that'll wrap the first hour. Then we'll get into the second hour. Joining me for her quarterly segment and did not miss all year, the creator of the Hey Grill Hey brand, Susie Bulloch, and Todd. But we'll see. We did a sound check yesterday. There were 2 microphones, so I would assume as time allows, Todd will also be sitting in and adding his 2 cents or 5 cents or however many cents he feels that he can add. And Susie's talk will be a lot about Thanksgiving. We'll talk a lot about turkey techniques and preps and side dishes, dessert execution. I am trying to remember if Thanksgiving is the holiday that her and Todd go head-to-head on who can make the best red velvet cake. I mean, I'm not a sweets guy by any stretch of the imagination. A red velvet cake, to me, would probably taste like a red velvet cake, but that's a really big thing in their house, and they go head-to-head for title of red velvet cake champion. So we'll talk to them about if, A, I'm correct in that thought, and then what recipe tips or what recipe tweaks they might be making from last year's competition. So Susie Bulloch, 14 past the second hour. And then closing it out, a longtime acquaintance, colleague, and friend of this show, dating all the way back to the beginnings, even before I had a podcast when it was just a forum, Dan Arnold from Suckle Busters. One of the biggest names in the rubs, seasonings, chili kits, and sauce business. He's been around for a long time. He's doing something right. He's grown it from just a handful of seasonings into a juggernaut right now. And it'll be great. I haven't had Dan on in maybe 7 years or 8 years. And again, we go way back to just barbecue forums. There was no Barbecue Central show. It was just forums. Remember, that was a hot technology, everybody, back in 2004 and 2005. You frequented barbecue forums and posting feverishly your questions, just hoping somebody would answer so you didn't F whatever you were cooking on the smoker up. So that's how the show lays out tonight. Sterling Smith shortly, Jess Pryles after Sterling, and then second hour Susie Bulloch and potentially Todd Bulloch. Dan Arnold from Suckle Busters coming out of the bullpen. Don't forget you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching the show tonight through one of the video streaming platforms. You can go to Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show to watch. Also, you can take in the show via YouTube /RDRempy. I will also take a second to say hello to all the folks using the audio streaming platform this evening, Clubhouse. So if you would rather hear us and not watch us, you can do that on Clubhouse. There's also a chat option in Clubhouse. So for those of you listening, if you want to chat amongst yourselves, feel free to do so. In the YouTube chat, I have posted a poll question, which is, do you trust your whole birds? Doesn't necessarily have to be Thanksgiving related, but when you're cooking a whole bird, any poultry, are you a truster? 83% of you currently saying no.
Get that big stuff out of here.
And that's where we're starting here this evening, believe it or not, because I've gotten a number of emails the past few weeks that have questions specifically related to trussing birds and if you should or should not be doing it, both for poultry in general, especially for Thanksgiving. And I'm going to bottom line it for you, and this is just me. I'm happy to ask my guests tonight what they think, just for more opinions. Meathead gave you his take last week on the whole thing, so go back and grab that if you missed it. But the bottom line is this. In the end, it's your preference. Do you want to string up a bird? Do you want to turbo truss a bird? Do it. Do you not want to do any of that nonsense? Don't do it. Here's what I can tell you from my experience. I have no interest in dealing with butcher twine. It's weird. It's involved. I don't like it. Again, my opinion. I also don't see the turbo trusser being any better for me, and there is no benefit as it relates to cooking speed, juiciness, locking in flavor, or any of that. And that's not opinion, that's fact, so I don't do it. I spatchcock almost exclusively. It cooks faster. It yields a more even cooking experience. The presentation, in my opinion, is a whole lot better than doing the whole bird, not to mention significantly easier to carve when compared to the whole bird as well. So it's just my opinion, but you do what you like, just like wine, just like your temperature, internal finish of steak or whatever. Whatever your palate prefers, whatever you like, that's right. Don't let anybody tell you that it's wrong. but I will tell you the trussing is wrong. But don't listen to me. Jerry in New York is writing in. Greg, I really enjoyed the flip grill conversation from last week. I am waiting for them to make a unit to accommodate my size cooker. I have, but the campfire unit seems to be a great thing too. Thanks for having him on the show and introducing me to his product. Love the show. Regards, Jerry. Jerry, thanks for weighing in. Harry in South Carolina. Greg, I'm not a watch guy, as you appear to be. However, I really enjoyed the conversation between you and the watch guy last week. I checked out the military edition watches Friday, a little rich for my blood, but they looked great. I had no idea that the United States was such a big watchmaking nation. Thanks for the history lesson and the intro to his brand. I'm checking out their other offerings right now. Love the show. Regards, Harry. Harry, thank you for writing it. You too can be read on the air if you just email me what you think of something that happened on the show, or go ahead and write what you don't like about me. I'll read it. No holds barred. All right, Sterling Smith is ready to go. I will talk to you quickly about Primo grills. What do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they are fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for high-temperature grillings of steak and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Enter Primo Grill on their game-changing oval design. The shape gives you the ability to execute a two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. And when you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to configure the Primo cooker, so you're only limited by your culinary imagination. Do they have accessories? Of course. It's one thing I know. Not only do we love our cookers, but we need to have endless amounts of accessories to accommodate those cookers, and Primo certainly is meeting those expectations. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the business? Yes. Patented technology? Yes. True two-zone cooking capabilities? Yes. Multiple sizes? You betcha. Even round if you want, but don't. Get the oval. Forget the round. Only sold through dealers. Visit primogrill.com and find a dealer near you to check them out, or follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Once again, the website, primogrill.com. We're back with Sterling Smith from Loot and Booty Barbecue right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also browse around and see what other offerings they have that might complete your cooking experience, especially as it has to do with smoke and pellets. My first guest this evening, pitmaster of Loot and Booty Barbecue, a winner of any number of grand champion and category wins during his time on the competition circuit, and now we add world food champ to the mix. We race to the hotline and welcome back friend of the show, Sterling Smith. Hey, Smitty.
Hey, how you doing, Greg? It's been a while.
Fabulous. It has been a while, and I am remiss in not having you on before now, but we are here. We have plenty to talk about, of course, as I got into the open, and not the least of which is this past weekend when I was outlining how I thought this conversation was going to go. World Food was going to be more of a high-level excursion, really not digging into the guts of it, and then Sterling Smith decided to get down and dirty and win the barbecue side of things, so we're going to spend a little time there.
Yeah, man.
I had mentioned that notwithstanding World Food Championships, there's the Kansas City Barbecue Society's World Champion. There's an Invitational now. There's an Open now. It's I don't know, 2-3 years old. They're really billing it to be their top-end event. So when you see both of these things coming to a collision course on the same weekend, and you're somebody that could have took part in both sides of that KCBS event, why do you go to World Foods? What's the thought process there?
Yeah, I did. I was invited to the Invitational. Obviously, I got a Grand Championship this year, so I was invited, and I did the World Food Championships last year as well. I took reserve Grand Champion in the barbecue area. So I really wanted to get that Grand Championship at the World Foods. I love stepping outside the box and allowing us to get creative with our cooking. I love KCBS. Don't get me wrong. The American Royal is one of my most favorite events on earth. I love that event. It's phenomenal, and I grew up on KCBS. But that weekend, unfortunately, they were both on the same weekend. I can't control that. All I can do is control, my future and where I want to go. And World Foods was on my list. I told myself before the schedule even came out that I wanted to get that World Championship from the barbecue section, because I was so close last year.
Yeah.
It was within a few smidgens of points, and I knew I can come back this year and give them something better and win it. So I already had my mind that I was going to World Foods no matter what, and it just happened. If it was another weekend for KCBS, I would have definitely made that great decision to drive across the whole America from Arizona to Alabama. It would have been a tough decision, but this is what I do. I love cooking, and if I have the opportunity to do it, then I'm going to do it no matter, where it is.
Is it conspiracy theorist on my part to say that somebody that runs the World Food Champions purposely had this weekend and or vice versa? Or do you think it's just more happenstance?
I think it's a lot having to do with happenstance. A lot has to do with venues when you can have them available. I'm not going to control that. I don't like to get into the back end side of things. Unfortunately, I can't control that. All I can do is control, my emotions and where I go and what I want to do. So it could be conspiracy theories if that's what you want to believe in, man. It's just like cooking, trust or not. It's up to you, right? That's your freedom to do that or not. And if you want to do it, great. If you don't want to do it, great. Same thing, conspiracy theories. If you believe that, awesome. If not, I don't know. I really don't care. It's not really, something I want to dwell on or talk about. It's not important to me.
So let's talk about the weekend. Give us a little recap of the barbecue event itself and how it unfolds for the new listeners or the folks just getting into food sport or competition who don't know too much about it.
Absolutely. So within the World Food Championship, there's multiple divisions from bacon, burger, rice noodle this year. There's vegetarian as well. What other categories are there?
Was chili there this year?
Categories.
No?
Dessert. I don't think chili was. I think they wrapped that in soup. Soup was a category.
Oh.
So, I don't know. It's chili soup. That's a debate too. Barbecue, steak, 10 total categories. So within the barbecue section, there's two different events. There's a barbecue eat, which is ran through the World Food Championships sanctioning body, and that's where you get to serve your food on a platter, and you get to fancy it up. You get to get chefy with it, and you get to think outside the box, and take just regular barbecue and turn it into a culinary masterpiece. And then there's also a CBA side, which is the Champions Barbecue Alliance, which is Fred Robles' sanctioning body in Texas. So what they do is have two events: the top 5 from the Eat barbecue category and the top 5 from the CBA category advance to the top 10 finals in barbecue to go to that finals for there's one World Food Champion in March.
Can you take part on both sides, or do you have to commit to cooking the Eat or cooking the CBA?
Yeah, it's a great question. You can actually do both. So you can hedge your bets and say, hey, if I don't make the first day, I'm going to try the next day for CBA. I went in just knowing I was going to do the Eat category and roll the dice, cross my fingers, and hope I get in. I wanted to use that next day to build my menu, to go shopping, to get everything prepared for the finals. If I didn't make it, then I would have just, backed it up and go home. The serendipitous
that's
thing
a pretty
is,
big, that's an all-in kind of attitude right there, Sterling. I got to admit, that's pretty ballsy.
I mean, it was, and the funny thing is, I didn't even get in the top 5. I took 9th overall. But this year there was what's called a chef's choice. So what we do when we serve our platters, we have a sample platter, which is our visual that they judge for appearance, and then we have 5 sampling trays, which goes to the judges for appearance, taste, texture, and all that. So all these trays are set up on a table, and all these master judges are looking at your appearance trays, and they pick one person that they think based off appearance, culinary skill, whatever, to go to the next round if they're not in that top 5. So I ended up getting that chef's choice pick to go to the finals. So I was the 11th entry into that finals. So it's kind of like from the bottom to the top. Then come comp day on Sunday, when all 11 of us are there, we're pretty much on a clean slate. It's rip and grip at that point.
What are you cooking that ends up taking the championship?
Yes. So this year, and how World Food works is once they get to the final, there's certain infused ingredients or an infused product, protein, something along those lines. This year, Chairman's Reserve was the sponsor, and they gave us 2 full packer briskets. So we had to create pretty much any meal, anything that inspired us, anything that we felt appropriate at the moment to give to these judges to show what we can do with this brisket. So it was up to us to take that brisket and do whatever we wanted to do with it. We wanted to think outside the box, and I wanted to have a story. And it was also serendipitous. That was Veterans Day weekend. I'm a Navy veteran.
Yep.
And so I really thought to my time in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, that's when a lot of my food skills, I really got into food, being on my own outside of mom and dad and, traveling around the world. I loved getting into the food scene. And that was in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. I traveled around the Pacific Ocean. So I wanted to take that brisket and given that Veterans Day weekend and give them something from my travels, something of time, a taste of what I ate when I was in the service. So I had an amazing sous chef in Mike Johnson from Sugar Fire Barbecue. He's one of my great friends. Cooked with him several times. We cooked in the finals last year. I sous chefed him last year at the finals. And my great friend John Reeves from Smoking X Barbecue out of Lubbock, Texas. So we all 3 came together, and we put this platter together. We put this idea. We put this menu, and it just snowballed from there. And so we took that brisket, and we had to do burnt ends and brisket. So I took the burnt ends out, and I made a teriyaki burnt end skewer with pineapple, a little toasted sesame seed on it for him. We shredded up that brisket, and we made a crab and brisket fried rice with a little quail egg on top, a little bit drizzle of sesame oil. Wow. And then we did a really stuffed egg roll for him. We did a mango sweet chili sauce on that, and it just cut that fatty brisket amazingly. And then we did a little sample spoon with a brisket and shiitake mushroom gyoza with a wasabi aioli and a little bit of, we call it China Lina sauce, which is a Chinese hot mustard mixed with my Arizona Gold honey mustard sauce, China Lina. It just worked at the time. And we rolled the dice, we threw it on the plate, and they ended up loving it. They gave us a perfect score. All 5 judges gave us a perfect score.
Has that happened before? Perfect scores?
I'm not 100% sure. Within other categories, yes, it happened a lot that weekend. There were a lot of them. Within barbecue, I'm not 100% sure. I know it didn't happen last year. Robert won last year, like I said, just a smidgen above me, and we were like 97s, 98s, somewhere around there. I'm not sure if it's happened in the past or not.
And the judges that were taking part here were the who's who. I mean, you've seen them all on television for years and years. You had Dr. Barbecue, you had Chris Lilly, you had Harry Sue, you had semi-famous Dave Anderson, you had
Leanne Whippen,
Tuffy Stone.
Leanne Whippen and Tuffy Stone, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are folks
Dr.
that
Barbecue
are well
didn't
accomplished.
Yeah, Dr. Barbecue didn't judge our finals in the barbecue. He was judging another event. But yes, we had those other 5 judges who were, like you said, the who's who of barbecue, people we see on TV all the time, people we see out there doing things, writing books, on TV, promoting products. And to be able to cook for them was just crazy. It was an honor, and it was a privilege. And to get all those people to tell me that it's a perfect entry, it hits the heart a lot,
How many of the teams decided to go traditional sliced brisket burnt ends?
From my looks from the table, and I didn't get to see them all. I saw a lot of them coming through because I love looking at what other people are doing. I'm interested in that. Everybody all those pitmasters went outside the box.
Really?
There was a brisket pho. There was a fettuccine Alfredo with burn ends. There was a chili, like a brisket and chili. I think there's a couple of those, which is pretty standard. But several out of the box ideas that were just blew my mind seeing these entries come in from these pitmasters. These aren't just some redneck guys in the backyard throwing in, chicken and ribs and pork and brisket. They were some of their other guys were just blowing my mind what they were turning in. And what's really cool is you get to taste the guys next to you. They'll bring you over a piece of this and be a piece of that. Hey, look at this. We all like to show off our shit. Hey man, come and taste this. Tell me how good it is. So, but really, really liking it and just seeing what other people are doing that's something I'm really passionate about and something I love doing,
When you get the call that Sterling Smith is winner of World Food Championships in the barbecue division, I mean, you're a guy that's accustomed to winning. You've seen your fair share here. So how does this compare to other stuff you've been involved in?
Oh man, I think it's one of the tops. Actually, it's a world championship. I've won chicken at the American Royal. I've won pork at the Jack. I've won brisket at Australian Invitational. I've RGC'd the American Royal Open twice. I've RGC'd World Food last year to be that close. And then this was something I really wanted. And like I said before, I told myself I was going to go back no matter what. And my focus was to win that and to actually see the fruition come from it and to hear your name at the end. It just means like, all the hard work was worth it. Sometimes that's all you need.
Sterling Smith joining us here on the show. The website, lootnbbq.com if you want to check it out. Let's transition into this. Oh, by the way, so Sterling won the barbecue side of this, but there's still a whole other finals to go. We don't really have any information on that, so I don't want to spend a lot of time hyping up something I can't tell you about. But if you follow Sterling on social media or you follow World Food Championships or subscribe to newsletters or whatever, or continue to watch the show, we'll release all this news as it becomes available so you can see how Sterling winds up here in the finals, which he's got a really good shot at winning, of course, because he's very dynamic and an outside-of-the-box thinker, which I think is really good for these specific type of competitions as well.
I also built a good team. It's about a team.
Yeah, of course.
And it was a whole team effort, and we all came together, and it's everything just fell together in place last weekend. It doesn't always happen, but enjoy them when they do.
Let's talk quickly about Boot and Booty's barbecue business. You have rubs and products that you've been retailing for a little while now. So as you've gotten them to market and increased the portfolio, how's this side of the business running right now?
It's at this point working with Old World Spices, which is my manufacturer, my distributor. The program that I'm on with them just works perfect for the way that I run my business. So they distribute for me nationally to all my accounts, with Ace Hardware and Lowe's and Shields and Farm and Fleet, Bass Pro, Cabela's, all nationwide distributors. We probably have about 6 to 8 countries importing it right now. So to work with a company that can basically partner with me to handle all the back end shipping and all that kind of stuff, let me go out and market the product, teach classes, work with Green Mountain Grills, MC demo stages at big festivals, continue to compete and continue to grow my line. It's just been an amazing partnership with Old World Foods right now. And now we're working on other things with them. Working on getting my sauces with them. Actually, right now, I'll be going out in the next month to work with their R&D team to work on bringing my sauces in-house to Old World Spices. So it's been a hustle, obviously. I think really how I built my brand was working with Green Mountain Grills and building the outdoor pitmaster classes. So I came to Jason with Green Mountain. I said, I have this idea. I've already doing classes. What if we expand this to all of our dealers who carry Green Mountain Grills, and we offer this program for them where I can come in and I can not only show them how to get the best of the grill, I can give them some amazing backyard recipes, from a championship pitmaster. So I've been able to grow not only Green Mountain Grills, but on my line as well. Because when I go into these dealers, I'm using my product, we're selling it, we're taking it off the shelf and, putting food in their mouth and getting somebody to taste that product is a huge selling point. Being able to taste it on food as opposed to just sprinkling in your hand and putting it in your mouth. So that there's a lot of power in that. And I've built a lot of my brands and a lot of my relationships on that class. And then, like I said, working with Old World to fulfill the back end, shipping, receiving, handling. It's just been a great program. And then a couple years ago, I was reached out by Callisto Media about writing a book. So during COVID, I banged out 2 books, barbecue book, a sauce book. And to me, it was another product. It was another way to spread information, spread love, another thing that I can, have in my portfolio of products.
Yep.
And it's been working out well for me.
Everybody that is a fan of this show knows that Green Mountain Grill has been a longtime sponsor. We've been very open and transparent about things that have been transpiring between them and Traeger. We'll hold that off to the side here. There's another product that, again, I'm not going to get into the weeds about because it's not my weeds to get in per se. But there's a product called RIPT Grill that you have been cooking on for any number of months now, maybe even longer than I would even know since we saw it on social media. Looks a lot like a Green Mountain Grill, but it's quite a bit different as far as fuels are concerned. It's not a wood pellet cooker by any stretch of the imagination. It's wood chips. So talk to me about this grill and how you have liked cooking on it and how it separates itself.
Absolutely. I think it's about 8 months now that I've been working on this grill and, just working out with anything that has the PID controller, you got to get everything right with the smoke and the volume and the amount the auger pushes through, the fan control unit, working with that thermocoupler. So leading up to its release, we were doing just a lot of cooking and beta testing and getting a lot of that right. And I find that definitely there's a lot more smoke product visually, definitely. And then I find at 275, lower temperatures, the amount of smoke flavor, if the flavor, it's definitely more prevalent than a pellet grill. The way the wood combusts, the way the smoke reacts in that chamber, you're definitely getting a smokier product. Once you start burning higher, 300, 350, it's really efficient, much like any other grill. Smoke flavor is going to be indifference. I've tasted food off of stick burners, off of Green Mountain Grills, pellet smokers, cook it at high temperatures. When you combust like that and so clean, it's hard to tell anyway. But definitely when you're smoking at low temperatures, that smokier product comes through. I used the grill for the first time in a competition in Kanab, Utah, which was about a week before the American Royal, maybe 2 weeks. And I just wanted to throw it out there before I put it into the big show. So it did really well. It ran well. Got a couple calls on it. I just need to tweak things. So I ran it at the American Royal. We ended up reserve grand champion. I took up pork and ribs were both cooked on that RIPT. 2 weekends later, we brought it out to the Jack, cooked ribs on it, and took 7th place at the Jack and Ribs cooking on the RIPT grill. So, the proof is in the pudding. It is a tool, and if you know how to use a tool, much like any other tool, you can get phenomenal product off of anything. But to me, the build of that RIPT grill, it's sturdy, it's big, it's meaty, it's double wall insulated. We have options much like the Green Mountain Grills with pizza oven attachments. There's sausage hanging rods. We also have a rotisserie option available. So the amount of options on it are much like we have with the Green Mountain Grills. The build is it's just meaty. It's a well built grill. You feel like you're buying a $14.99 grill. And that's pretty much what's going to be the price shipped to your door. $14.99 for that grill, for the options. It's an amazing grill at an amazing price.
It is the pitmaster of Loot and Booty Barbecue, your newest world food champion on the barbecue division. Not the bridesmaid this time, Smitty. You are indeed the bride, no doubt about it. LootandBootyBBQ.com is the website. It's been too long, like I said, my man, but appreciate the catch-up, and let's do it again sooner than later.
Always love having you. Always love seeing you, Greg. Thank you for having me on, and thank you guys. I really appreciate everybody for supporting my product, supporting my brand throughout these years. It's just been an awesome ride, and I'm gonna continue to roll, baby.
All right, there he is, Sterling Smith, Loot and Booty Barbecue. Once again, his website is lootandbootybbq.com. And speaking of Green Mountain Grills, I'll talk to you quickly about them. Sold through dealers only, greenmountaingrills.com. So find a dealer near you, go to the dealer, touch them, feel them, hold them, love them, and then pick the one that's right for you. If you want to save a few bucks, look at the choice line. If you don't mind spending a few more extra bucks, or you want all the bells and whistles like that are on a lot of other cookers right now, so that would be internal meat probes and peek-in windows on cooking chambers and pellet hoppers, lights on the inside of the cooking chamber, Wi-Fi, app connectivity, all this stuff. Primeline, that's the one you're going to want to take a look at, Peak and Ledge. Now, the good news, as Sterling had mentioned, the pizza oven insert, the Peak, the Ledge, and the Choice Line cookers all accommodate the pizza oven insert, so you can do a host of slow and low barbecue, or you can smoke roast, and then you can kick it up a notch on Fridays and Saturdays, or any day of the week, and do pizza parties. High heat pizza, it's still very popular, and this is a great pizza oven, and you only need the one cooker. Yank the guts out, pop the pizza oven on, and away you go. Again, through dealers, greenmountaingrills.com. Find them and get educated. You'll be ready to rock and roll because you will now be educated as well. greenmountaingrills.com. We're back with Jess Pryles, or are we? Stick around to find out. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we thank Sterling Smith for joining us last segment. This portion brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via the Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're luck. Fireboard fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. My next guest, the CEO of the Hardcore Carnivore Brand of products, a spokesperson for a number of high-profile brands to include Smithfield Fresh Pork. She's a book writer, social media, an internet sensation, as well as a Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer. We welcome back Jess Pryles to the show. Hey!
Hi!
You're there!
Can I tell you? I am here.
Right.
You know, the Barbecue Central Hall of Famer is my favorite of all the titles, obviously.
It is?
Yeah, it is.
Well, thank you. Is it because, like,
Don't you believe
you're
me?
currently in, well, I don't want to presume, but is it because, like, this is maybe the only thing that's got Hall of Fame attached to it?
Maybe, but also because you're wearing my T-shirt and it looks really good on you.
Yeah,
So I
thank
thought I'd
you.
just throw that out there. Sure.
Me and David Leans are working out, so we're filling out the
Hey.
shirt nice. Yeah, Beef Chief,
Yeah.
which is great. Thank you for outfitting me tonight. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You've been asking for years for a pocketless version, and finally I caved. So
That's right.
well done.
That's right. Thank you. 67% of my viewing audience on the YouTubes is saying they don't trust turkeys. So let's lead off tonight by asking me asking you this question: are you ready to talk some live fire tonight?
I'm ready to talk some live fire.
Okay, it's not the right answer, but we're still trying. We're still one day you're going to get it just
Every
serendipitously. Are you a
Every
trusser?
I'm a situational trusser.
Mm.
So I'm a maybe trusser.
So what
And-
drives you to trust?
Mainly if I'm stuffing the turkey and need to hold something in situ.
Mhm.
But mostly I would spatchcock these days because it's a better cooking delivery of heat to the turkey, I would argue.
When you're stuffing the bird or whatever it is you're stuffing, do you just like the end product that you get with the stuffing? Like, why do you do that? Just because it's like iconic, or are you getting something better, the flavors or whatever?
I think you can get, like, if you stuff with citrus and herbs, like, it's a great way to sort of have that more aromas than anything permeate the meat. And so, especially if you're going to put a whole orange up in there, you really want it to stay in place, and you might trust to do that. And obviously, trussing the wingtips, or I usually just tuck them under the bird, will prevent the very tips from burning as well. Unless you like burnt tips, in which case, let them fly, you know?
Yeah.
You do you, boo.
I'm asking some of my guests this evening. You're the first one. Turkey tips over the course of the show leading into Thanksgiving, because like in a week and a half, that's going to happen. So I'm going to change it up a little bit and ask you for some alternative ideas to the traditional turkey protein.
Well, I am very beef centric, and I feel like an obvious one is a prime rib. Another great option is a whole smoked tenderloin. Just did one of those this week. And obviously very easy to get, especially from, your larger stores. You can also custom order them in most grocery stores. So they're actually pretty accessible. And when you're buying in bulk like that, you get a better price than obviously buying by like a steak. So I think any of the beef roasts are going to be real heroes, but I also did a stuffed Smithfield pork loin, which really nice, like a creamy sausage stuffing. And I think that can have a really like sort of big wow factor on the holiday table too. Because it's also about kind of bringing it to the table on a platter, looking glorious and going, look at what I have achieved in the field of meat,
For the whole beef tenderloin thing, are you cutting it into fillets, or are you like trimming either side to a Chateaubriand? What's your take on that?
So I buy it usually whole. I'll trim off the silver skin. I'll take off the chain. That's how I like it, sort of quite neat like that. But I'll leave the heel or the iliacus in place. And then I'll tie it with butcher's twine, and that very tapered edge, I'll sort of swing it around like a U-turn and then tie that in so it's sort of roughly equal in size on both ends. And then I'll just smoke it whole like that, because then you get that sort of impressive, you can cut those beautiful medallions off one after the other. And especially if you use Hardcore Carnivore Black and you get that great contrast with it, it's got some real wow factor. Yep.
If we go back to the traditional turkey, are there 2 or 3 top tips that you're telling people this time around?
Oh, I'm dying on a hill. I have one.
We are?
I usually do.
Wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear what hill we're dying on tonight.
Don't double brine your turkey.
What does that mean?
It means that most birds that you will have access to, particularly from grocery stores, will already come pre-brined. So it says it on the packaging, say something like enhanced or solution added. And that means that they have already taken the steps to brine the bird. And a lot of people, because I posted a video about it today, and of course, as you know, Greg, because we talk about it often, the internet knows better. But in this case, a lot of people were sort of like, no, that brine's terrible. I mean, it's not. Salt is salt. So the idea is that the turkey industry realized that not everyone's an amazing cook at home, and that turkey can often be dry. So they started pre-brining the birds. They do it a lot with pork as well, to give you a better result at home. And sometimes if you were to do a brine on top of the birds that have already been brined, you risk really denaturing the protein. So salt will start to break down those connective tissue bonds, the protein bonds, and you can go too far with it and affect the texture of the meat. So I would argue, unless you're going to put something really significant in a brine, like a whole apple juice or, cranberry juice or something like really, really significant in flavor, more than just an orange peel and a little bit of allspice, you're probably not going to taste that much of it. So why bother with the brining step for a bird that's already been brined? Work smarter, not harder.
No doubt. Are you an injector outside of the enhanced bird? Like, will you inject birds instead?
I don't even own a meat injector for any kind of protein.
No?
I know people do it. Nah, it's a little too, it's very, very necessary in competitions, and I just don't cook competition style in my home. I like that idea of a more holistic approach in terms of, like, what can I do to make this meat sing the best? I want it to be the rock star without manipulating it too much. I mean, having said that, the brines have probably already been injected, but I just don't do them.
What are your favorite 1 or 2 side dishes for Thanksgiving?
Ooh, stuffing for sure. Either a cornbread or I do a great one with croissants. I have those recipes on my website, which is super easy and it's, again, that wow factor. Basically, if you're someone who loves adoration, these are all dishes that you will bring to the table and people will be like, wow.
Wow.
You know, and that's a nice thing in and of itself. And just to feed your family like that, that's a nice thing too. So probably that. Hey, I really do that whole green bean casserole thing. Just have never been able to get on board that train.
Yeah.
But I love also yeast rolls, because who doesn't love carbs?
Yeah.
And I do a version of them that's made with bacon fat, and it's delicious.
No doubt. Well,
Mhm.
quick U-turn. She's only been a rubber, but now she's a saucer, ladies and gentlemen. Hey! So look at this. Here's the Hardcore Carnivore Burnt Ends sauce that's here in this jar. And, you know, we spent a lot of time over the years talking about you have this one product, now you have these 2 products. And so how we go about adding stuff to the Hardcore Carnivore brand. But it's only been rubs, and now you've gone and gotten into the sauce game. So let's talk a little bit about why it was right for sauce this time, and then why specifically was it burnt end sauce?
I was very hesitant to get saucy, just because everything that I've added to the Hardcore Carnivore line and even how it started to begin with has been very much about products that I believe in and feel strongly about and would use in my own home, and not something that floods an already flooded market. So they have purpose and meaning and use. And there are some amazing barbecue sauces out there. I love using Meat Mitch frequently.
Yeah.
I
Big fan.
buy HEB barbecue sauces here in Texas. They're amazing as well. And I just feel like entering the world of barbecue sauce was just something that didn't need to happen at that time. But I had this idea for burnt ends. And what we've done with the sauce in particular is all of the things that I've developed are, this is how I think it should taste. And luckily, how I think it should taste has resonated with other people. And so when I formulated the burnt end sauce, I wanted something, I have in my head what burnt end should be. And when I would go to some barbecue joints and just get cut point brisket that was just tossed in regular barbecue sauce, I'm like, that's not really the flavor I had in mind. That's not what I think of when I think of burnt ends. And so we developed this sauce with a particular, like, type of sugars in it that can be reheated without splitting. Sometimes when you use regular barbecue sauce to finish your burnt ends off, once you reheat that product, it can actually kind of lose its shine and glossiness because the sugars start to separate and the consistency changes. So the consistency was a big part of the sauce in addition to the flavor. And as it says on the bottle, just add meat. So it's meant to be an all-in-one solution.
I'm curious what inverted sugar is.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, that's the non-separating sugar? Okay.
That's right. That's right. So it's a sugar that you can heat and it'll stay, it'll keep its glossiness, it'll keep its consistency. There's a little bit of smokiness in there as well. There's a little bit of heat, not necessarily that it's hot, but just to balance it out. And if you haven't already got plans for hams, you should definitely glaze your hams with it as well.
Yeah.
It just pours really beautifully over the ham.
So now that the sauce floodgate is potentially open, do you have other stuff that you are now game planning in some form or fashion to bring? Is there going to be a Texas style sauce and this region sauce, or a Hardcore Carnivore specific sauce?
There's literally nothing in sauce R&D right now, which is not to say that there won't be in future. But again, I'm just so careful about choosing things that I feel really strongly about, that I feel will have a place and a purpose.
Yep.
And so when I think of that next thing, I will absolutely start messing around with it in the kitchen. But right now, we'll just probably focus on seasonings and accessories as the next thing. And hopefully people really enjoy. I mean, we've already had amazing feedback on burnt end sauce, and I also always like seeing when people use it for something other than it was intended. So I've seen it on chicken wings and ribs and things like that too. So yeah.
We are a month and a half away from the end of 2022 when I was talking in January saying that 2022 was rapidly coming to a close, as I always say on the first show of every year. Well, guess what? Now it's almost here. So I was right again for the 48th year in a row.
Amazing.
What trends surprised you this year? They don't have to be ones that you liked, but what were you surprised to see come out of the woodwork that people really gravitated to? I was surprised with smoked cream cheese, but and not in a good way per se, but that was the one that really stuck out to me.
You know, I feel like I'm having trouble answering this question because I've put so many of them out of my mind. Like, I never tried the smoked cream cheese just because I don't want to yuck someone else's yum, but it just seems like something that shouldn't even be a recipe, like Rachel Ray's Midnight Bacon. Have you ever seen that recipe? It
Never.
went viral. It says, put bacon on paper towel, put paper towel in microwave. That's the recipe. Yeah. So that's how I feel about smoked cream cheese. And it's not my vibe, but I'm sure it's other people's vibe. But I think I nearly want to say that with the vast overtake of pellet grills in the outdoor cooking market, which is rad because it's brought so many other people into the fold and you want people to be excited about cooking. But it's also definitely, I think, probably created I feel like you could start a Barbecue Central album of dishes that didn't need to be smoked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I don't think every dish needs to be smoked. Like, for example, I prefer my steak charcoal grilled rather than smoked. I just prefer the flavor of it. So cream cheese, I prefer in cheesecake form or popper form.
Or brick form with a saltine dipped and then yanked right into your mouth. Watching Days of Our
Probably not
Lives.
so much.
No?
Yeah, or scallion on a bagel
Ooh,
form.
scallion.
Sure.
Gross. No way. Onions are gross. 2023 trend predictions. Anything you want to call your shot on before the year turns?
Yeah, I know someone's going to continue to cook beef whole and fly in the face of millions of professors around the world who work hard to tell you why you shouldn't cook it whole. I don't know. I see a lot of people getting interested in meat science now for sure. So I'm not that innovative because I feel like it's just like these core things that keep coming up again and again, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I whatever it is, it's going to be some weird smoke thing.
Maybe it'll be a turn or a trend to meat science for the great unwashed. We won't see any more NyQuil chicken. We'll just know that that's some bullshit, and we won't be sticking it up on TikTok or anything like that where the FDA has to warn the general public not to do such nonsense. Maybe that's going to be the trend of 2023. Smarter people.
Maybe, but I mean, that's why our coffee cups say caution hot, so probably not.
All right. Now it's your favorite time. You ready to play a rock and roll game as we close out?
Yes, because I know that I'm right no matter what your answer is.
All right. Well, Jess Pryles from Hardcore Carnivore. Jess, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Jess Pryles. I enjoy being on Barbecue Central and cooking meat and telling people why meat myth busting is a thing.
I love how the introduction changes just a little bit each and every time. You're always
Gotta
like
keep
right
it
there.
fresh.
Boom, right there. I love it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you get this right, we call that a winning streak because you will have now aced 2. So that's when a streak starts, when you do 2 of something. So no pressure.
I feel pressured.
No pressure. Between the 2 of these songs, which one is better? Artist Meatloaf. Paradise on the Dashboard Lights. Or 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Lock and C, neither, because no one listens to Meatloaf anymore.
All right. Well, I don't know about that because there were choices A or B, but guess what? You were 100% right. That was a trick question.
Yes!
Oh, wow. Good for you. Good for you.
Oh, I'd
Well,
like to thank my family and
no
Greg.
doubt. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to trick you right into that, but no. Jess Pryles way too smart for such nonsense.
It was
And
like Rudolph's nose.
Yes.
The beacon was just there.
you could see it. All right. Well, here's what you want to do. For any more cooking recipes or tips, you go to jesspryles.com. All of that stuff lives there. If you want products, rubs, this new sauce that we were just talking about, another such stuff, Hardcore Carnivore.com is the website, and then socially at Jess Pryles or at Hardcore Carnivore, depending on where you want to go. Anything else that you would like to leave us with, Jess, as we get ready to turn into 2023?
Make sure you have Tums in your pocket and always eat as much meat as you want to. I wish that was a little bit more profound, but let's just go with that.
We will go with it. Jess, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in 2023.
Thank you for having me. Thanks everybody for listening as well, and have an amazing rest of the year. Cheers.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. All right. That's Jess Pryles. Again, the website, jesspryles.com. Or that's for the recipes and all the food stuff. And then Hardcore Carnivore is where all the products, rubs, seasoning, sauces, exclusive limited release items happen from time to time as well. Where am I here? All right, let's talk about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue, a curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies will get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything at Big Papa Smokers has been pitmaster approved by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself, from the award-winning rubs and sauces to the American-made grills and smokers. They have the perfect rubs and seasonings, popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition circuit. 13 perfectly balanced flavors, transforming ordinary meals to extraordinary. They're also selling Granny's barbecue sauce, which they own. So if you're looking for a new go-to sauce that will please everybody, Granny's traditional yet powerful flavor reminds us of why we fell in love with barbecue in the first place. And they're selling cookers in all various shapes, sizes, and forms. If you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. If you don't know what kind of grill you want, call them 877-828-0727 or shop their website at Big Papa Smokers. That's BIGPOPPA Smokers.com. We are back to wrap the first hour. We're back to wrap the show, everybody. No, back to wrap the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Jess Pryles for joining us again last segment. The website's jesspryles.com for all the cooking stuff and recipes, hardcorecarnivore.com for all of the gear and the rub, seasoning, sauce, all that good stuff. And socially at Jess Pryles or at Hardcore Carnivore, so make sure you're tagging the right one. We also thank the pitmaster of Loot and Booty for joining us before Jess Pryles, talking about the big barbecue division win over at the 2022 World Food Championships. I think he said a bridesmaid last year and committed, doubled down, and said, hey, hell or high water, I'm going back to the 2022 World Food Championships, and I'm going to win that barbecue thing no matter what. And guess what? He did it with some very creative use of brisket, to say the least. Went back to the Navy days, went back to his other flavor profiles that he was experiencing back in those days, brought it to Texas, and walked away with the title and check for 10 grand. So not a bad weekend. And when he was doing the eat portion, wasn't even the top 5. He was 9th. He was in by the judge's choice, and then he won it. So I can only imagine how many pissed off barbecue teams there are because he didn't make it in the top 5. But he won. We are pointing to the second hour. Go ahead and refresh libations, and we will be back here in just a few moments. You are listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is Monroe Stoll. I'm from Stowe, Ohio. And you're listening to Barbecue Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet for wieners.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It is the Barbecue Central show, where we talk about only the most important items that are going on in the world of live fire since last week. The show originating from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
Still to come on the show this evening in about 13 minutes from now, Susie and Todd Bulloch from Hay Grill Hay. And coming out of the bullpen tonight from Sucklebusters, seasoning, sauces, chili mixes. I think there might be a... what do they call it? A dip? Salsa? I think that's what it is. Dan Arnold. Longtime friend of the show, so we'll be catching up with him. We say good evening to those of you watching this show tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to Facebook and or Twitch/BBQ Central Show to watch. Also, you can take the show in via YouTube/RD Brempy. We also say good evening to the folks using our audio streaming platform, Clubhouse. So if you'd rather hear us and not watch us, you can do it in the Clubhouse. And there are chats available as well, both in Clubhouse and on YouTube. So if you would like to take a run at one or both of those, where sometimes they talk about the show and other times they do not talk about anything that has to do with the show. There is a poll up in the YouTube room asking if you are a trusser or not, and 70% of you said you are not a trusser. You are not.
Andrew, you are not
a trusser. Right. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 255, taking you back to 2012, and this time we feature a barbecue legend, somebody that I originally did a podcast with back when the show wasn't live, so that would be 2006 to pre-2008 of February 2008 when the show went live. A guy who created something called the Fast Eddie Cooker, or the FEC, as a lot of people know it, Ed Morin. In this particular cut, Ed and I spent time talking about the Jack Daniel's barbecue competition and why there continues to be such a reverence, a mystique, a romance, some would say, such preference given when I ask pitmasters about their thoughts on this event as well. I think about the Royal, and I have always considered the American Royal to be the real elite contest, because there's no restriction or anyone being left out or sitting on the sideline. If you won your qualifying competition, you get an invite to show up to the American Royal Invitational that year and go against all the other winners. And whoever wins that, in my opinion, is the elite competition cook, my opinion. However, that's not the case on the Jack. Many teams that are having wonderful years, but maybe they didn't auto in with 7 under their specified time frame, don't get to go, or they won more than a handful of times, but in their state, they also have a tremendous amount of barbecue competitions, and they don't end up getting their name called when they do the jack drawings. So maybe that's what makes it more special to the pitmasters. But everybody I've talked to that has won a American Royal and asked, can you compare or contrast, or would you trade away the Royal win for a jack win? Most of them say they would. And nobody that I have asked that has won the Jack Daniels has said, yeah, I would trade away the jack to win the American Royal Invitational. So that speaks volumes. Fast Eddie, by the way, has introduced a new line of barbecue pellets to the market. So if you're looking for a new line of pellets to put in your pellet-driven cooker, you go to grillandpellets.com, I believe, is the website that he's got up there. So Eddie's always been a great guest. Eddie was a big believer. This was, almost 10 years. Well, 10 years ago. It was 2012. Listen to how good Eddie sounds. He was real big into technology back then, as he is now. So he sounds absolutely superior long before I started mandating that everybody sounds top-notch. Eddie was sounding great 10 years ago. So I think you'll enjoy the best moments coming up this week. And don't forget, if you want to hear a guest or a segment again that might be lost in the archives, email John. He puts the show together, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com, and he will do his best to meet your show expectation. Still to come in November for upcoming shows. You know it. You love it. You're excited about it. The $200 Peppermill Challenge. That's right. In my hand, I will have a $200 Peppermill, and taking part with me, Dr. Barbecue Ray Lampe. In his hand, he will have a competing $200 Peppermill, and we will put those Peppermills through their paces. Now, you might be asking yourself, how many paces can you put through a Peppermill? Plenty. We have been game planning for months and months to really figure out and give our unbiased opinion on which $200 Peppermill you should be buying this holiday season. And I'm sure most of you are like, I'm not buying $200 Peppermill. Well, after seeing our $200 Peppermill Challenge, you might think differently. It could be the Pepper Cannon, which I will be championing, or it could be the Electric Black Rain that Dr. Barbecue is going to be championing. And stay tuned for that. It's going to be one for the ages, I believe is what they say. Also coming up in November, Chris Lilly will be stopping by. Noah Glanville from Pit Barrel Cooker is going to be stopping by. Derek Riches, the bristly barbecue journalist, is in. The embedded correspondents will also be stopping by on the fourth Tuesday in the second hour, where we will be giving you our 100% honest opinions. Well, we know what Rusty's opinion is on this, but the other three, me included, haven't really eaten them in any recollectable amount of time. Recollectable is not a word, by the way. We're doing the full McRib breakdown because it's the farewell tour. You will never be able to get a McRib, and I threw down the gauntlet to those guys last month and said, whether you like it or not, and Rusty likes it, eat at least one McRib so we can talk about it in an educated way on the next embedded correspondence. Now, the thing that is hanging in the balance right now, the other mandate that I threw down aside from the McRib was Beyond Meat. Last month had just talked about releasing the steak. I believe it's sirloin tips, so these are chunked meat. It's not a steak form Beyond Meat. I have no luck locating the Beyond Meat steak tips, so I think that review is in jeopardy. I've corresponded with both Rusty and Doug. They have both said they have had zero success in locating them as well, so I don't think it's rolled out as quickly as I might have thought. That might get pushed out into December or January of 2023, so we'll have to see about that. But rest assured, you'll be getting the full McRib breakdown, so if you haven't had one in a while and you want to weigh in, make sure that you eat one within the next couple weeks, because on the fourth Tuesday, we're going to be breaking it all down and giving our opinions on it. last week at the close of the show, I was talking to RT Custer, one of the co-founders of Vortic Watch out of Fort Collins, Colorado. And we were talking specifically, aside from the history of the company, about the military edition watches that they were releasing on Veterans Day, which was on the 11th, this past Friday. So remember, there was the standard military edition. There were 50 of those pieces, and then they were also releasing a special edition military watch, which had 15 units available for sale. So I talked with RT last night late. He said there's roughly half of the standard military, so let's call that 24, 25. And just as of a couple hours ago, there are 2 special edition watches that are remaining. Again, price points on those: standard military edition, $8,000, and the special edition military watch, $12,000. So while a lot of you are like, whoa, no way am I spending that kind of money on a watch, for the folks that either are connected in some way to the Master Navigator watch that we were talking about that is featured in that military edition, that might be a stronger pull to you. Or if you're just a micro brand watch guy or gal and you understand what goes into all this stuff, $7,000 or $12,000 might not seem that big of a reach for you, and you'd spend $12,000 on a Rolex anyway, what have you. So very, very limited edition of the limited editions available. Again, 2 at last count, but those could be sold out by now. And roughly half of the standard military editions are left. So vorticwatch.com/military to purchase if you are so inclined. All right, Susie and Todd Bulloch are in the green room. They are ready to rock and roll, so we will get with them here in just 1 second. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. If you're a beginner, if you're a professional, doesn't matter. Definitely a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them Barbecue Central Show sent you. Leading off the second hour, joining me for their final quarterly visit for the year of 2022 is the creator of Hey Grill Hey, one of the most recognizable and popular names in live fire space. We race to the hotline and welcome back our pals, Susie and Todd Bulloch. So last time you guys were on the show, you had just launched 2, count them, 2 new products. Now that we've had a little time away from that, how are they being received into the market?
Oh, good. So it took a couple months longer than we thought. Everything is still kind of catching up on some production and things. But as they started to catch up, our team decided last minute to throw out another new product. And we, how many, was it 2 weeks after we launched the rib rub and the mustard sauce? We launched a turkey kit for Thanksgiving, which included the brine bag and the brine itself, a barbecue rub, like a turkey rub, and a cranberry glaze.
Wow.
And we sold out of those in a week. And now they're gone.
Was that a shop?
Yes. Yeah. We've never done anything in a specific bundled set before. It was kind of, unless you were buy all 5 products, and we kind of offer a discount for that on our site. But we wanted to put together something that was kind of an easy button for people, especially around the holidays. Turkey is not very difficult to smoke necessarily, but if you're only doing it once a year, and it's a bigger cut of meat, it can be intimidating. It's usually for a family gathering. You want to have that beautiful Norman Rockwell moment, and you want to have the perfect holiday turkey, and you want to show everybody what you get to pull off of your smoker. And that takes a little bit of work and usually adds a lot of stress. So we wanted to make that as easy as possible. We thought we'd do the first run with like maybe 250 of these kits because we didn't know anything about the manufacturing process, the timelines, how it would sell. About a week before we hit the order button on, we did like custom printed boxes and the brine bags are really cool. And before we hit the order button, Todd's like, we should do 500. And I was like, I don't think that that's a very good idea. I don't think we'll sell them that quickly because we've never done this before. And
isn't that usually the opposite way you guys work? Isn't Todd the one telling you that's a bad idea?
Yes. And so, which is maybe he should, I don't know. We should listen to Todd more
Todd's
often.
smart, no doubt.
The night before he changed his mind and didn't tell me, ordered 1,000 of everything, and then told me after the fact and was like, I ordered 1,000. So I was panicked. I'm like, we're going to be selling turkey kits for 4th of July. Like I just thought that my foreseeable future is just me trying to offload these turkey kits throughout the remainder of the year. But yeah, we pushed go. Todd and I were actually out of town. And we were just flabbergasted at the response. I think we found a little piece in the market where people were just excited to have something unique and different. None of the products you can get any other time of year. They're specifically for smoked turkey. It's not like we're using our other products and calling them a turkey product. Like we specifically developed these for turkey. And every time we tested them, we fed them to our team, we fed them to our kids. Everything we got back was, this is the best turkey I've ever had. And that became our new standard. Now I'm not putting anything out unless it's the best thing you've ever had. And it's really stressful because it means a lot of work.
Well, instant feedback from somebody watching the show. Dan Wright says these kits are outstanding. Yeah. Made a turkey with one Saturday. So there's, one positive feedback of obviously.
Well, the feedback that we've been getting from people that have been cooking with them has been phenomenal. So we're so excited for everybody that has one that's saving it for Thanksgiving. Next year, Todd gets to order as many as he wants. Yeah. We're bringing them back next year.
So it's not, the concept isn't anything new. It's brine. There's a bag. You have some, seasonings, the glaze that you were talking about. I mean, what's making it great?
I think all of it together is what makes it really unique in the way that every flavor is designed to complement each other, but it's not an identical match of anything else. So the apple spice brine is, a pretty unique flavor profile. It's brined in some apple juice, so it has a little bit of sweetness. The rub is kind of this awesome mashup between a classic barbecue rub and a very traditional herby turkey seasoning. So you open these packages and it smells like Thanksgiving. The cranberry glaze was probably actually the hardest to develop. And, you don't see a lot of glazed turkeys because people want either the crispy skin or they're worried about rubbery skin. So we nailed down a really amazing glaze that makes your the cranberry in the glaze makes the turkeys like this beautiful red, shiny, shimmery, like just absolutely fantastic to look at. And then the added perk is, our main business. Yes, we have rubs and sauces but the reason that all of this started is because I love to teach people how to make better barbecue. And so if you scan the QR code on the box or any of the products, it takes you to a video where I literally show you step by step exactly how to use the turkey kit. And if you follow every single step, you will have a fantastic Thanksgiving turkey. We wanted to make it as foolproof as possible and really deliver flavors that are a little bit unique, but delicious more than anything.
So obviously, Susie, you're a fan of turkey in general, not just for Thanksgiving. You an eater?
Yeah, we eat turkey all year long.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, around Christmas time, this company called Norbest puts out these, they call them sweetheart roasts, and they're frozen in this like plastic congealed pack together. So you have to buy them frozen. And the only time they're on the market is right now. So I'll usually buy 6 to 8 of them and put them in the freezer and then just slowly eat them, all just like restaurant style smoked turkey breast, and they're fantastic. So yeah, we love turkey.
I was talking with Meathead last week. We had talked about trussing. By the way, my poll question right now is sitting at 73% of people say they do not trust birds. I don't understand it myself. Are you guys trussers?
The biggest question that we get, not necessarily trussing, is spatchcocking. People want to know, is it better to flatten the bird or cook it whole? If we're cooking a whole bird, I will usually just use the included truss that comes with the turkey with the little plastic feet that tuck in there.
Yep.
But I do tuck my wing tips, and that's not something that I see everybody do. But I am a big fan of the wing tip tuck, where you just take those little ends and tuck them right behind that shoulder joint. Prevents the smoke from getting all the way evenly across the breast. A lot of times it can inhibit your seasoning too if you leave them out. And they tend to get a little bit dark during the cooking process and can kind of open up to the side and look a little bit funky. So I tuck my wing tips.
I told
But that's
Meathead,
about all I do in terms of trussing.
let's just, so he was real big on, and you had mentioned it too, but crispy skin. People want this crispy skin. Obviously, if you're doing it low and slow, you have some potential issues there getting crispy skin. And I said, well, hey, how about this? Just rip the skin right off of that, number one. Save it. Don't throw it out. And then, use some kind of a binder on now the naked turkey meat, put your rub on it. Now the rub's right on the meat. Cook it that way. A lot of people cook skinless chicken of various forms, fashions, and cuts and so forth. Do it like that. I'm a big spatchcock guy, so I'd cut the backbone out, lay it down, do all that stuff. And then figure out a way to maybe do some kind of a competition thing with the skin. So, turn it over, take your fillet knife, scrape out any ridiculous amounts of fat, and just lay it out and put it in the oven and bake it like a big turkey potato skin chip or something, or break it up and put it in your mashed potatoes with the gravy on top of it. I mean, if we're just throwing it all out the window anyway on Thanksgiving, why not add a little crispy turkey skin to your mashed potatoes? Are you down with that, or do you have any other outside of the box techniques to work with?
I do. So, we hear rubbery turkey skin, especially if it's smoked. And a lot of times that was kind of accepted as that's just an unavoidable casualty of a low and slow smoked turkey. I've actually been working on this for last year, and it sounds stupid to say that I've been working on it because it's the dumbest and easiest thing ever. So it's not wow, she's so smart.
Not working on it, just making sure that it works.
But testing it to make sure that it actually works. But it is kind of that competition style, not in the way that we peel it and scrape it, because that sounds like too much work for my lazy butt. What we do is during the cooking process, we keep spritzing that skin when we're smoking low and slow at 225 with a cooking fat, either duck fat spray. I like to use avocado oil. You can spritz with olive oil. This isn't based necessarily where it's the turkey juices and fat. And it's not you don't want to use your basting brush and drag anything across the top, because that'll mess up your beautiful seasoning that you've got on there. But every 30 to 45 minutes, a light coating with cooking oil, or when you see that turkey skin start to dry out, it's different than adding just liquid like water or juice or anything like that, because that evaporates really quickly. But the fat creates a barrier between the smoke and the skin itself. So at that low and slow temperature, it really allows the fat underneath to render properly. So it cooks the fat out that makes things really chewy. It prevents that top layer of skin from drying too much and becoming leathery, and gives you a really great color on the outside of your turkey. So it really is oh, she's the stupidest thing. But yeah, every 30 to 45 minutes, a nice spritz with a spray cooking oil, and you will have, it's not crispy skin. You're not going to get crispy skin at 225. But it'll give you a beautiful bite through skin. So it's very, very edible. You get all of the seasoning that's on the outside of your turkey skin. You get all of the flavor of that smoke that develops over, that whole entire low and slow smoking process. And it has a really great bite through texture. And we've been doing that on our turkey breasts. We're doing that on our whole turkeys. And it's turned out great time after time after time.
Yeah, the turkey breast that we take the skin off. When we do the turkey breast, we do trim the skin off completely. We were finding that if we didn't spritz, you get this kind of hard outer shell that's almost hard to chew. You end up tearing it off and just eating, and then that's all the seasoning. So when we were spraying it with this avocado oil, it really did with the skinless part, it helped that not to happen. So it's a great option either way.
Yep.
Susie and Todd Bulloch joining us here from Hey Grill Hey, the website heygrillhey.com. If you're looking for recipes or cooking techniques, barbecue stuff, all that good information is over there on that website. For the folks that are turkey believers, lovers, even ones that will sit through it, they're not even going to have it. What are the best alternative proteins that you're going to recommend this year?
Brisket.
Todd will recommend brisket for every meal always until he dies. You see a lot of prime rib around the holidays. I think that's a great option. Prices tend to come down because volume goes up. I don't know if that'll be the case this year. It'll be interesting to see. If you're doing a smaller crowd, I think pork tenderloins are lovely because it acts as a pretty neutral base. So you can add whatever type of flavors you want to add. If you want to go with a really traditional, you can do a garlic and herb rub and grill it or smoke it, and it'll taste beautiful alongside whatever other type of Thanksgiving meats you want to have. If you have a bigger party, I have a crown roast of pork on my website that is beautiful. It has the French bones coming off of the top, and it's this nice, lovely, medium rare pinkish around the middle, and it's essentially the ribeye roast of your pig, and it's very juicy, very delicious. So that's always a fun one. We like to bust that one out come holiday time. And ham. I mean, my kids are like, I think they've had 12 turkeys already this year. It's one of our occupational hazards. By the time Thanksgiving comes, we're like, we did it. We've done it. We've had the turkey. Yes, we love turkey. But my kids are like, no, we're good as long as there's a ham. So we usually have a turkey and a ham on our Thanksgiving table.
What are your favorite side dishes?
Oh, classics. Stuffing, but it's got to be like good stuffing with stuff in it, like sausage and dried cranberries. And I like chunked up apples in my stuffing and lots of herbs and butter. What's your favorite side, Todd?
Oh man, I don't know.
Sweet potato casserole.
That sweet potato casserole you make is incredible. But you gotta get the rolls right. Rolls are a huge part. If you don't bake the rolls, and they're amazing, get them off the table. Don't go buy rolls.
I am not the roll baker. That's usually like a sister-in-law's job that has more patience for baking than I do.
But I think my sleeper one is honestly green bean casserole. I love it with the crunchy onions on top, mushrooms.
Is Thanksgiving the red velvet cake face-off, or am I getting my contests or cakes mixed up between you guys?
That's birthdays usually. Is when we hit the red velvet cake.
Yeah,
that's our daughter's
October
birthday.
Birthdays. Close to Thanksgiving.
All right, so let's switch it up a little bit. We've covered Thanksgiving well enough, and if people need more info, again, the website, heygrillhey.com. A few weeks back, I have this fella by the name of Cade Huskinson on from Camp Chef, and for the first time, we are talking about the Woodwind Pro that brings an elevated smoke profile to their line of pellet cookers, because the one refrain since the dawn of forever when Joe Traeger created pellet cookers is, it works great, it's easy, set and forget. I don't know if the wood smoke flavor is enough. That continues to be like the thorn in the side of pellet cookers. Unless you're somebody who doesn't like a heavy smoke profile, then it's like a godsend. So you're someone who has had firsthand experience on it. I've seen you on some promo videos talking about the Woodwind Pro. So how do you rate it? Honest. It's just us gals talking here. So what do you think really separates this from whatever else Camp Chef is making?
I cooked on it today, actually, and I think you're right. If you are a person that wants a heavier smoke profile, this gives you the opportunity to build and build and build and add and add and add in a way that you can't do by just picking a different type of pellet. Because the way that combustion happens is very different when you're utilizing larger pieces of wood versus broken down compressed pellets. The moisture content is completely different. The way that they burn is completely different. And so by burning these larger pieces of wood chunks or even charcoal, you can change the flavor profile of the stuff that you're cooking on. I did smoke fried wings tonight. And anytime you're frying, you actually lose quite a bit of the smoke flavor. It leaches into the oil. And so I knew I wanted a really robust smoke on the wings before I popped them into the deep fryer. And so I leaned heavy into the Woodwind Pro, and I made that choice conscientiously, knowing I want a heavier smoke profile. And that's something that I can build into a cook on a Woodwind Pro that I couldn't on other, pellet grills by just utilizing a different type of pellet, or even a smoke tube, which again is more pellets. It's a different type of burn, but it's still the same material. So the Woodwind Pro gives you an opportunity to utilize a different type of wood, a different type of material to create a different type of combustion, a different flavor of smoke. So I don't know. I think it's a great middle ground where you get the ease of the pellet smoker and you can use it and run it pellets only if that's what you like. But it gives you the opportunity to have that level of control that you could get from a different type of smoker. Todd's biggest challenge is his next cook on it is he wants to do a brisket and do a Texas style brisket. Because we did when Camp Chef was getting ready to launch it. There were 3 of us that cooked briskets on there. I did one that ran hot and fast. We had a couple guys that ran a real Texas style brisket overnight and turned out some really beautiful, delicious briskets with great bark. And so I think that's Todd's next challenge when he fires up the Woodwind Pro next.
Yeah, I love pellet grilled brisket. Don't get me wrong, but just offset or really nice barrel cooked brisket or drum smoker cooked brisket. I mean, there's nothing, or Kamado. I'll throw that in there too. The I don't know what it is. Just the flavor is just completely different and better in my opinion. But this is really, like she said, it kind of bridges it. It's a middle ground to where if you did just a pellet grill brisket and you did a Woodwind Pro brisket and continually fed it wood chunks and charcoal, it's an obvious difference, obvious. It's not all the way amazing like offset, but it just pulls it more that way, if that makes sense.
I'm going to bill 2023 as the year full-size electric grills are going to come into prominence. There's 2 available right now. There's others that are getting ready to release something into the market segment over the next handful of months or whatever. Your thoughts on the potential success of full-sized electric grills as folks that have had their finger on the pulse of this market for some time now?
I think a lot of it is, you're going to see a little bit of a learning curve, I think. And, marketing has to step into the space to where they can put marketing dollars to educate people about what it is and why they should buy one and why they should have one on their back patios. You could see that with the pellet grills, it took a bucket load of years to really grow, into the mainstream backyard space. I think anytime you're introducing electric grills aren't necessarily a completely new category, but they have been reserved for tailgating, travel, smaller patios, apartment living. So to have electric grills step into the full size backyard space, I think it's going to take some marketing dollars, and I think it's going to take some real salesmanship to tell a consumer why this is the preference. When you have a budget to spend on a full-size grill, why would you go that direction? I think it's interesting. I think it's anytime innovation happens in the space and it perks up more people to the idea of cooking in their backyards, because maybe electric grills can interest people that haven't previously been interested by gas, charcoal, or pellets. Maybe that feels a little bit too out there still, but electric feels like that could be a step for me to enter this space. Fantastic. I will be waiting there with recipes for when you decide to start cooking in the backyard to feed your family. That's so great. I don't really care what you cook on. That's kind of always been our thing. If you know how to turn it on and get it to temperature, I'll give you a recipe to cook on it. So it'll be interesting to see how much of the market share they start to take over with this new category.
Here's what you need to know. If you want recipes, as Susie had mentioned, if you need last-second help for Thanksgiving, you go to heygrillhey.com. You can also join Facebook groups. You can follow them on social, get all this updated information as it's happening. And hopefully in 2023, you can continue to see them for quarterly visits here on the Barbecue Central show, but we'll work out rates and private jet flights and all this other stuff like we had to do this year, so no problem.
I know. It's getting so difficult.
I know.
We've got to at least double it.
All right. Well, we'll get our agents involved, and boy, it's going to be great. But yeah, I appreciate the last couple of years of you guys showing up every quarter and having these talks and giving all the information out to the listeners. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving, and we will see you again in 2023.
You too.
Thanks, Greg.
All right. There they are. Susie and Todd Bulloch, Hey Grill Hey, the website heygrillhey.com. So go ahead and make sure that you are headed over there if you have any last-second questions or you're looking for new techniques on how to do those turkeys or barbecue questions in general. Great resource. Make sure you're taking advantage of it. Dan Arnold from Sucklebusters is in the green room, and he's getting ready to go. I'll talk to you quickly about my guy David McDowell over at David Leans and the Do Wellness program. Well, lo and behold, we are at week 20. Yes. What does week 20 mean? It means that after a week or a week and a half of weight stability, because remember, we're on the build now, we've tacked on 2 pounds. Yes, sir. So now at 173, we are 12 pounds away from the goal of 185, but putting it on in the right way, eating it in the right way, making sure we're hitting the workouts. And multiple times during the week, I'm checking in with David, asking about, can I substitute this? Can I substitute that? Let's make a change in this weight program. Let's make a change in that weight program. What if I miss this day? I'm going to be out of town. This is the type of accountability that is helping me, drop it off. Remember, went all the way down to 165, if you can believe it. And now we're building the muscle back on for a goal of 185. You can do it too. Tired of feeling sloth-like? Think you're eating too much? Not making the best choices? A, you got to commit to change. And then B, always easy when you have accountability, or easier when you have accountability. David is that accountability, and he's totally reachable and ready to put a product and a position that works best for you. DavidLeans.com/BBQ. That's DavidLeans.com/BBQ to sign up right now. Tell him I told you. And remember, you're somebody that's just like me. At week 20 now, there's a cat right there. There's a cat. Hi, cat. You guys smell like fast food. Swennies. Oh, God. Anyway, DavidLeans.com. That's DavidLeans.com. Start now because you will have had a number of weeks before the year turns. Don't say you're going to do this New Year's resolution. Forget that. Start now, and then by the time the New Year's rolls around, you're already into the new lifestyle. All right, we're back with Dan Arnold right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Susie and Todd Bulloch for joining us last night with this portion of the show being brought to you by Smithfield. The popular Smoking with Smithfield grant program applications are currently live at smokingwithsmithfield.com. In order to help deepen prize pools, Smithfield is once again awarding $3,000 to selected competitions. Applications are open until December 3rd, so you got a couple weeks left. Also, the Committed Cooks program is happening once again in 2023. Looking for teams to commit to using Smithfield products during 2023. Participating teams receive a swag bag, coupon kits, surprises throughout the season. Same website to sign up, smokingwithsmithfield.com. Helping me close the show tonight is someone who has been very successful in the rubs, seasonings, and sauce industry. He has been a long time business person in this industry. I was listening to my favorite baseball and barbecue or BBQ related podcast hosted by Len Aberman and Jeff Cohen. And they had this guy on the show, and out of nowhere, he mentions this show, the Barbecue Central show, and I thought it was about high time we circle up and see what's been happening over the last 10 years or so. Ever heard of Suckle Busters? Yeah, of course you have. If you're a fan of live fire, you most certainly have. We race to the hotline and welcome back the founder of Suckle Busters, Dan Arnold, is back on the show. Hey, Dan.
Hey.
Hey.
How's it going, Greg?
Well, for the new listeners and first-timers checking out the show tonight, maybe they're planning on getting a cooker for the holiday season, or they hit the Powerball a couple weeks ago and they have a fresh $600 million cash payout after tax that they're looking to burn through their holes and pockets and so forth, and they're going to get a cooker. Give us the high-level introduction to Dan Arnold and Suckle Busters.
Hey, thanks a lot. First, I got to say it is true. I mean, years and years ago when we got started, Greg, we were just running barbecue forums on the internet. And
can you believe that?
I don't know. I had this crazy idea to start a barbecue rub company. I really, truly thought I was going to get rich overnight, which didn't happen. But nevertheless, I stuck with it. One of the key things that happened when we got started was Barbecue Central allowed me a platform to come out and talk about our products. And you gave us an opportunity. And I just think you've always had that quality about you and the show is just openness, to be more inclusive. And you gave us a shot, and it really did help out. So here's to you. It was awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I'm still a big fan of Suckle Busters, and you're a lot easier to find as you're in retailers all over the country. I forget where you're at last count, 700 or 900 plus stores across the globe and whatnot.
Yeah, so we've grown quite a bit. We're in about 3,000 stores across the U.S., and then we have 15 countries that we ship to currently. So it's grown quite a bit.
When you look back at the beginning days, as you said, we were literally running barbecue forums. So, for those that have no idea what that is, back in, I think I started mine in 2003 or 2004, whatever it was. And this was a place you just go on the internet and you would post a question about something barbecue related. Hopefully it wasn't too time pressing, because depending on how not heavily trafficked your forum was, you might not get an answer directly. But the heavier trafficked ones had people checking in all the time. So you could post, what do I do if I'm hitting the stall, or what rub should I use on this? And you have 20 different answers. And that's how people were getting their barbecue information tossed along, through barbecue forums. And you started the Texas Barbecue Forum. I was running Barbecue Central Forum, and then, as you said, you got into the rub stuff. So when you decided to get into the rub business, and this was a long time ago, this isn't now where everybody seems like they're coming out with rubs. Like, what was the impetus to do something like that?
Well, honestly, it was just a little bit of a whim. I mean, I'd always barbecued and cooked, and you always have your favorite rub in the cupboard in a jar with your name on it, right? And you'll bring it out and cook and kind of show it off or whatever. But I always had that rub. And just one day, my wife and I, we were grocery shopping, and we were looking at everything in the aisles. This is mid 2000s, and it just dawned upon us that we could make products that were better than the ones we were able to buy at the grocery store or at any retail store. And so my wife made an offhand comment, and she said, "Why don't you just bottle yours?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." And we just went on about our trip. I didn't think anything else about it. But the next day I woke up and I was just like, wow, I could do that. And so I did. So I bottled up a rub, and there took off from there. We just started with a bottle, and literally right here in this office started making labels and putting products in bottles and trying to sell it.
How many years ago was that now, Dan?
That was 06. So
wow, 16 years.
Yeah. And back, you made a point. It was very, very different back then. There were just not a lot of people doing it back then. There were some really big names that had been around for a long time, especially down here in Texas, but there really weren't that many people doing what I was trying to do at the time, which was start up.
Would you get into the rub business now? I mean, it's always easy for me to ask because you see where this whole industry has evolved. But if you didn't know that, is it more of a, I have something I think that can stand above and head and shoulders above what's out there, or I can get above the noise?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would encourage people, if you think you have something you want to do, go for it, because this for me has evolved from something I did as a side business to a full-time gig, how I feed my family. We have employees, and it's how we pay the bills. So it can happen, and it can happen for anyone if you're just determined enough and you stick with it and you just keep on moving through. So yeah, I would say get into it, go for it.
What have been the
and do your
biggest
best.
breaks that have happened for you, or what have been the biggest, not hurdles to clear, but as you look back over 16 years, there had to have been some pinnacle moments through that time that sent Suckle Busters to that next level and then again to that next level?
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened when we got in is I created a rub, and it was sort of popular. Okay. And so I learned very quickly that not every rub is for every consumer. So you're going to have multiple rubs. So we started producing a couple more rubs, but then along there, we started thinking about barbecue sauce. And I had this barbecue sauce recipe that I'd been cooking for years and years and years. I just love the sauce. And so I thought, we're going to do sauce. And we did, and we bottled it and we put it out. In the very first year that we put it out, I entered it in the American Royal, and we took away first place, and literally had to scrape me off the floor. I just couldn't believe it. It was just amazing. That really just propelled us kind of to the next level and gave us some legs to stand on. And, winning, at the American Royal is just awesome. So it really helped us go to the next level.
As you start to make plans to grow, how do you grow? Is it, back in 2006, there was a lot of, I knew a lot of guys that wanted to get into the rub business that were on the forum, and they would get a bottle, they get a label, they had a pretty good recipe, but they only thought it was going to happen on the internet. They were going to make their riches solely through sales on the internet. And I think a lot of people thought that's how it was going to happen. But the more folks that I talked to, that was going to be a part of it, but you were also going to actually have to go out and make calls and get brick and mortar and get distribution. It's not solely going to be online. How quickly did you learn that lesson?
Well, pretty quickly. The first rub we brought out was called Texas Gold Dust, and we put it out there, and exactly what you said. I thought, hey, I'm going to put this thing out there and it's just going to explode, and we're not going to have enough product to fill orders. And the opposite happened. We just, we would sit around and wait for orders to come in. So I really quickly figured out that A, you're going to have to move people through your website for traffic. So you got to start working on those plans. But B, you're going to have to get it to the stores, because that's where the consumers are at in those days, especially. And so pretty quickly we figured out, hey, you got to go retail. You got to go get it in the stores.
Were there any coaches or mentors along the way that helped you hone a pitch, or is it just school of hard knocks? You figure out what doesn't work and say, okay, I'm not going to do that again, and try something else?
Yeah, all of the above. Do you know Dave's Insanity Sauce? You happen to know Dave,
yeah,
or have
of
you ever
course.
spoke with him? Yeah. So he was an early mentor, and he was awesome. He was just like an open book. He really helped me in some areas, because we were trying to kind of mentor or kind of like mirror what was happening in the hot sauce industry with the barbecue rubs and sauces, right? Because hot sauces were very popular and they were very available. So I was talking to him one day, and he goes, if I could give you one piece of advice, Dan, it's this. There are a lot of good hot sauces on the market. What you need to focus on is making a really great sauce. And it sounds so simple, but it's very, very difficult to do. And today it's still true. There are tons and tons of good rubs and good sauces on the market, but the really great ones are the ones that are successful. That's been true.
When you look at
all through the years,
sauces or rubs that aren't yours, who would you go buy with your own money?
Oh, geez, there's tons of great rubs out there. I mean, I really like, you know, I really like some of the ones that I kind of grew up on. Some of the older names like OBQ and John Henry's. Those guys are ones that have been around forever, and they have really, really great products. You know, Mark Lambert, Sweet Swine of Mine, Sterling Smith at Loot and Booty. You know, Heath Riles, he does a really good product, and so does Malcolm. So the names that you see in the stores, they're there for a reason.
As you're building the portfolio of products, how do you go about figuring maybe this one was a winner for X amount of time as you're tracking numbers, maybe it's starting to tail for whatever reason? Do you have products in the hopper ready to start taking the place, or ready to start dipping your toe in the water with those as one start to tail? And then when do you figure these are ones we have to cull, either for good or for now?
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a to-do list?
Oh, yes, all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, my to-do list is a list of rubs that I want to make. You know, they're concepts, right? And I have a list a mile long. So there's no, you know, I have plenty of ideas. I have plenty of concepts to bring to market. But back to the other side, what we have to do is we kind of have to filter out the ones that aren't working through the market for whatever reason. And whether it's a dip or just over time and haven't performed, you need to cut loose on those recipes and move on, and then backfill it with a new recipe. And so we do that periodically. You know, we dropped some recipes this year. We added some new ones on, and then we have more that we'll bring out next year.
Early on, when you were having to make those decisions, did you ever get in your own way, where you were a little hard-headed, or there was a little ego going, hey, I know this is the bomb, but nobody seems to be picking up. I'm just going to continue to press until everybody comes around to my idea?
Yeah, Texas Gold Dust was that one for me. And we still make the product today, but it was so loaded with cumin and chili powder that just half the people that tried it were offended by it. The other half loved it. So it's been a good performer, but it's never been a rock star that I thought it was going to be when I first introduced it. And on the other side of that, by the way, one rub that has been a rock star for us is SPG. I had the concept of SPG in my pocket for 5 years before I ever produced it. And I just decided I'm not going to produce it because it's way too simple, right? Everybody knows what SPG is. It'll never sell. We put the product out and we couldn't make it fast enough.
Yeah.
It just took off. And now, you know, everybody has an SPG. So sometimes you can get in your way, you know, your own way. You just have to try things and see what works, and, you know, be willing to cut loose and move on and try new things.
As you look over the lifespan of the company, what are the best-selling products?
Yeah, so we look at it in terms of proteins. And so we have a chicken rub called Clucker Dust. That's probably our number one seller. We have an all-purpose SPG, which I mentioned. We have our 1836 Texas beef rub. And then we have our pork rub called Hogwaller. Those are our top 4 recipes across the board for rubs. And they're tried and true. They've been out for years. They're competition ready. They're backyard ready. They just sell.
Do sauces fall underneath those?
Yeah, they do. And I don't know why. I have an idea why, but we don't go into big box retail. We're more of the specialty stores. So we'll be in a barbecue store. We typically sell our products in a store that has grills and smokers and accessories, not a retail grocery store. There's tons and tons of sauces in the retail grocery store. And so I think that they've saturated the part of the market there, for us anyway. And then our sauces do well, and we have awesome sauce, but we just don't sell as much volume wise as we do rubs. And I think it's because of that retail situation.
How many different barbecue sauces are you selling right now?
We got 7 right now, 5 sauces and 2 glazes. Yeah. And we're probably going to cut back on a sauce or 2, but the glazes have been really hot in the last couple of years.
When you are going through the business model here, maybe we can do a little inside baseball. For the folks that are looking to get into this, how are you able to cost it out where maybe you're in the middle of a pitch, or you've been in one retailer, but now somebody else is going to try and work you a little bit harder. You had a good deal the first time, but this second opportunity is starting to fizzle a little bit. The easy thing is to start lowering the price to get the deal, but now you're cutting into margin. Margin is most important. What are some of the most important things you learned making those first handful of deals to where, I'm not going to say it's your way or the highway, but you weren't really going out of your way to sacrifice just to say you got a deal?
Yeah. So the observation is that it's a margin-based business. So everything we do is based on margin. We have a target, gross margin. We have a target margin for what we want to sell each product for, and we average those things out. So we know what we're trying to hit. And honestly, I have a number in my pocket and I know what my number is, and I just don't go below it. And we're very price competitive in terms of retail, and we're very price competitive in terms of wholesale. But the other side of that equation, Greg, that's super, super important is the manufacturing side, because your cost of goods sold is going to determine what your overall retail price is going to be. And that's going to determine what your wholesale price needs to be. So you have to have a really good and low cost of goods sold to be competitive these days. And the way we do that is with volume. So I got a number in my pocket. Our margin is X. We don't go below it. I don't care who the retailer is. And we try to level the playing field no matter how big they are. And we just stick with it. I don't go down.
Have you ever thought about bumping into Sam's Club or Walmart or something along these lines at some point, or it's just not in the foreseeable future?
It's probably not in the cards for me. It just really is not something that's, on my dashboard. So I really like the specialty retailers. We have an awesome group of specialty retailers. I just don't see bumping up to the big box retail. One of the challenges, by the way, when you go into like a Walmart, or maybe you go into Sam's or one of the big grocery store chains, is they're going to typically try to shove you through a distributor. And about 6 years ago, we got rid of our last distributor, and we don't do any distribution through a typical wholesale distributor. We go wholesale direct to our retailers.
For the 2 years or so of pandemic, if you were in the barbecue game outside of the restaurant portion, it was gangbusters like nobody had ever seen. I assume you guys were part of that big upswing. I guess the question is, as you're in the midst of it, aside from going through, we can't get glass jars, we can't get tops or brown sugar, whatever. Are you also saying, hey, this is every minute is better than the next minute. This is not going to stay consistent, and we somehow have to capture this, or the rainy days coming kind of thing? How did you ride that wave of barbecue mania that a lot of people got caught up in?
Yeah, well, we loved it. It was very beneficial for our business. We just, hey, can we do it again? But seriously, we just tried to live in the moment. Those days back in 2020, 2021, we were just trying to make it to the end of every day. It felt like every day we just fell across the finish line, just taking care of customers and getting orders shipped and, meeting the demands and filling our supply chain and doing all the things we had to do. Not to mention the whole marketing side and just dealing with the whole COVID deal. It was awesome. So it was a good time to be in the barbecue business. We used that to kind of up our leverage in the industry, and it's carried over pretty well into 2022. So we're pretty optimistic.
Any new products set to hit the market as the year turns?
Yeah. So one of the things we're doing is we have a program called the Pitmaster series, and we dropped a couple of new rubs. We have a lot of rubs, right? I don't have to tell you that I have like 20 rubs. We're more or less paring down our rubs to just like our top 12. And that's what we really focus on. Outside of that, we have a lot of pitmasters that we call team sucklebusters. They help us develop recipes. They're world champions, those type of guys. So we're bringing rubs to market for them. So we dropped 2 new rubs just recently. Denny at Chicks at Smoke, and Darren Williams, who happens to be the Minnesota KCBS state champion, and Ash Kick and Barbecue. So we dropped their 2 rubs this year. and been huge success. It's been a lot of fun trying to help someone that you were kind of mentioning earlier, just trying to get into the business. They're partnered with Suckle Busters, and so we can kind of help expedite all that, getting them to market quickly, helping them develop recipes, making sure the branding's right, getting them through distribution quickly. So those 2 rubs have been awesome. It's been a lot of fun.
So if I call you tomorrow and say, hey, I want to bring a Barbecue Central Show rub to the market, I can partner with you and we can make that happen.
1-800.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's what we do. We help people bring products to market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we look at 2023, and during the COVID times when things were just nuts, were you ever approached to sell? Anybody looking to buy Suckle Busters? There was a lot of business being transacted with people buying people and intellectual property and all that stuff. But what about sauce and stuff?
Yeah, we had a solid offer on the table to sell.
For real?
And we just, yeah.
Who's into buying you? Are you allowed to talk about that? Or is that kissing and
I
telling?
couldn't say who it was. Yeah, I mean, it's, I couldn't say, but we had a nice offer on the table. It just wasn't our time to sell, personally. I didn't want to stop working. So
was the cell number not the yacht number, if you will?
Oh, it was, yeah.
Oh.
It just wasn't my time to go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There wasn't a opportunity for you to stay on? Like they can make you really rich and you can also stay on and do your creative thing?
Yeah, there was that opportunity, but if I'm going to stay on, I'm just going to run the whole thing. I'm not going to work for somebody else. So.
Yeah, you're not going to be under the Suckle Busters umbrella without being founder CEO, right?
Right. Yeah. If we're going to sell, we're going to sell. And we're going to move on down the line. And that may be in the cards somewhere down the road, but honestly, I retired from corporate America about 5 years ago. So I'm basically retired. This is fun stuff for us. And, it does pay the bills. We love all that stuff too, but it's also fun. It's enjoyable and it's something I love doing. And I don't want to quit working yet. So we're just going to keep rolling it.
Dan Arnold is the founder of Suckle Busters, the website sucklebusters.com, Instagram @SuckleBusters. If you haven't tried the rubs and the sauces and all the other good stuff that he's making, certainly hit the website up and order a bunch of stuff. Give it as gifts during the holiday season here. And, of course, follow them on social media to see what they're up to. It's been way too long, Dan. I apologize for having such a gap in our conversations, but thanks to our mutual friends, Len and Jeff, I was sparked up again, and we'll do it again sooner than later for sure next time.
Let's do it again.
All right, Dan. Have a great Thanksgiving. Take care. And that is Dan Arnold from Suckle Busters. Once again, the website sucklebusters.com or Instagram @SuckleBusters. The Hog Waller rub is the Balt. So if you're looking for a new pork rub or something else to add to the mix, Hog Waller is bomb. No doubt. I think I might have been one of the first ones to get the test units of Hog Waller. I was like, this is a good one. All right, before we wrap it up here this evening, I'll talk to you about Vortic watches. Back in the day, watches were made to be worn in the pocket. After World War II, the wristwatch came into vogue, and the pocket watch quickly became an afterthought, finding their way into sock drawers and scrap heaps. Quite simply a tragedy. Enter Vortic Watch Company, helping bridge the gap between America's storied watch manufacturing past, taking it to the present day where wristwatches are finding incredible popularity once again. And here's the coolest part. Each watch that Vortic makes is unique and one of a kind. Vortic, founded on the motto that America wasn't assembled, it was built. Check out vorticwatches.com for more info. We are back to wrap the show. I've lost here in transitions for some reason on this Tuesday evening, but we'll get it together and get out of here, no doubt about it. We're back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Craig Rimpey.
Hey, that's me. We thank Dan Arnold for joining us last segment from Sucklebusters. Once again, that's sucklebusters.com. Sauces, rubs. At one point, there was chili mixes. Not sure if those got aced off the product's portfolio. There was a peach barbecue sauce that was an absolute killer. Big fan. If you haven't checked them out, make sure you do that. And I think that's going to do it. So we make tracks to get out of here as we run over a little bit here in the 11 o'clock hour, all the way back in the first hour. We let off with Sterling Smith, Loot and Booty's pitmaster, lootandbootybbq.com, talking about his win over at the World Food Championships in the barbecue division. He will be taking part in the finals. We don't know when that's going to be, but once we know when that will be, we'll let you know right here on the show, or you can follow him on all of his social media platforms at Loot and Booty BBQ. After Sterling Smith, it was Jess Pryles finally making an appearance, which we appreciated. We talked about turkey. We talked about alternative to turkey. We talked about side dishes. We talked about trends of 2022, some predictions of 2023. And believe it or not, she is now on a winning streak for the rock and roll game. I tried to trick her with a meatloaf question, and she's like, meatloaf sucks, and she was right. Then in the second hour, we let off with Susie and Todd Bulloch from Hey Grill Hey. A little bit more turkey talk, some new products talk with our turkey brine kit. And we also ended with some Woodwind Pro talk from Camp Chef. And then closing out the show this evening, Dan Arnold from Sucklebusters, sucklebusters.com, at Sucklebusters on Instagram. Playing a little catch-up over 10 years or so, what it was like to get in the rub and sauce business back in 2006, and then 16 years later, things that have transpired that have helped him become a better business person, and how he's helping other folks as well. Big show planned for you next week, of course. How Do I Always Leave You? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host, the proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
Yo, pod! This is Meat Mitch, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Bonk!